Hello, everyone. My name is Wendy Myers. Thank you so much for joining us today. I wanted to introduce one of our Harmoni Pendant study participants, Dr. Nathan Bryan, who oversaw some patients in the clinical trial that was conducted to show that the Harmoni Pendant does indeed protect from stressors like EMF or electromagnetic fields and helps reduce stress and improve a number of different variables. Dr. Nathan Bryan earned his undergraduate Bachelor of Science degree in biochemistry from the University of Texas at Austin and his doctoral degree from Louisiana State University, where he was recipient of the Dean's Award for Excellence in Research. He pursued his postdoctoral training at Kirstein Fellow at Boston University School of Medicine. And after a 2-year postdoctoral fellowship in 2006, Dr. Bryan was recruited to join faculty at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston by Farid Murad, MD, PhD, who received the 1998 Nobel laureate, the Nobel Prize in Medicine or Physiology, for his discovery of nitric oxide. And Dr. Bryan has been involved in nitric oxide research for the past 19 years and has made many seminal discoveries in the field. And these have resulted in dozens of US patents and international patents from the product technology resulting from his discovery and inventions that has improved patient care worldwide with the use of nitric oxide. Thus, we were honored to have him as one of our doctors participating in the Harmoni Pendant clinical trial. I want to discuss with Dr. Nathan Bryan what his findings were, his observations, and the results and benefits that his patients reported to him during the Harmoni Pendant clinical trial. So you are one of the doctors that was engaged in our Harmoni Pendant study.
Right.
And can you just tell us a little bit about your background and why you decided to get involved with the Harmoni Pendant?
Well, I'm a biochemist by training and a PhD in molecular and cellular physiology. So I've had a long-standing interest in how the body works and what goes wrong in people that get sick, and then how do you fix that underlying problem. And we are, electric beings. And so what we've learned over the past, I got an interest in this probably about 8 or 10 years ago, where we realized, or I began to understand, that every muscle battery pack affects an organ system. So it creates the voltage that basically fuels every organ system in the body. And then you can actually measure that through certain acupuncture meridians. And then if the voltage goes low, then chronic disease sets in. And this is basic cellular physiology that we learned back in, even as an undergrad, or even in high school, that the electrical potential of a normal cell is about minus 25 millivolts, meaning that it's negative inside with respect to the outside of the cell. And it's that electric potential that basically maintains a lot of cellular activity and transport of different things in and out of the cell. But if that polarity switches and you lose the electric potential of that cell fails, and then over time, cancer sets in. So that's kind of the progression of from the healthiest to really terminal states of physiology or pathology.
Yeah, and that's what EMF does, electromagnetic fields from wireless, is it creates this environment, this non-native frequencies that reverse that charge, that create more of a positive charge. And I think that's one of the biggest ways that it inflicts harm.
That's right. So there are a lot of things that we're subjected to that drain voltage. One is infections. The other things that we're exposed to in our environments, whether it's chemicals from the food we eat, or EMFs from the environment, from all these towers and technologies. And so again, there's frequencies that lead to electrical potentials, and if those frequencies, such as EMF, interrupt that normal cell metabolism, then it causes people to get sick. And so no one's ever recognized that, because again, I've learned doctors don't like to diagnose something they can't fix, right? And they don't like to test something that they don't understand. So testing EMFs and test frequencies and all that in a standard clinical practice is not going to be realistic, because it's not so-called standard of care. So I became interested in this little study because we were provided a means to changes in heart rate variability and a number of other outputs, and really some interesting algorithms, that you could see what the kind of the total voltage or power of the human is based on any given situation. So we would take baseline readings and then subject these patients or subjects to probably low-level EMF through an electric fan, and then see what that exposure did to their total power output. And then we would harmonize them with this pendant to see if we could synchronize or reverse the negative effects of the acute EMF exposure through these changes. We basically did 3 readings, and it became very clear pattern. And I did a really broad array of subjects, from terminal cancer patients who were really, really sick, to healthy people like me who are very health conscious, to kind of the run-of-the-mill place, people that are, don't take good care of themselves, but they're not sick, they're otherwise okay. But the pattern was very clear. The difference between, say, for instance, me, somebody who's very health conscious, my readings were off the chart in the good sense. And then those that were terminally ill, they started way down here. But when we subjected them to the EMF, it brought everybody down. And then when we reharmonized them, everybody normalized. Now, I shouldn't say normalize, because those patients that are really severely compromised, like the terminal cancer patients, their ability to reharmonize, and normalize from that pendant were much less than, for instance, me, who started up here, came down, then harmonized and come back, and actually improved even my steady state levels. So this really was demonstrated to me that we now have a way that you can measure this, the damages of EMFs, but most importantly, now you had a way through this pendant that you could harmonize those negative frequencies and then provide protection or disruption from those damaging frequencies. So to me, it's intriguing. It's very important, because I don't think the EMFs are going to go away. 5G just rolled out. I'm sure there'll be a 6G and 7G until enough people get sick to where they start to understand the physiology of these frequencies.
And what were some of the benefits people were reporting to you? Like, how did they feel after they were, activated this pendant or harmonized with the Harmoni Pendant?
Well, I would notice that when I would harmonize them with the pendant immediately afterwards, you can actually see the frequencies start to move when you harmonize them with them, and then you place them. Sometimes it would take, a couple of minutes in some people, but during that time, they felt a calming. They could actually feel it. It's kind of a subjective thing, but they could feel this calming effect. I think probably 80% of the people said that they slept better the night they're there, and they're still wearing the pendant today. And some of these I did a couple months ago.
Yeah, and can you chalk any of this up to the placebo effect? Because we know that the HRV is that we use, the Heart Scientific, is measuring the autonomic nervous system, right, which is not subject to the placebo effect. But any more thoughts on that?
Well, in medicine, or when you take things orally, there is a known placebo effect, and it's a psychological response to people wanting to get better and convinced that whatever they're doing is going to get them better. And it's, people have an effect to placebo. Now, when you're doing this, I wouldn't know how to control a study of this with a placebo, because, we can actually see, we can measure and quantify the changes in frequency which are affecting the power output on the individual. So I'm not sure how you would control this for a placebo. But I don't think that people are reacting to a placebo effect, because a lot of times their eyes are closed and I tell them to relax while I'm harmonizing them and putting the pendant on. So I think it's real because you can quantify that. And if you don't do the harmonization, then you don't see any real changes in that. And so to get baseline data, and then the data following a challenge, and then follow-up data following the reharmonization, I think tells you, with a high level of confidence, this is a real effect. You can correct the imbalances caused by EMF.
Yeah, and the design of the study, the fan that was used really released a low level of EMF. And it's surprising to see how much people are negatively impacted, and how all the variables being measured by the Heart Scientific HRV all decline. There's 30 different variables. It's amazing how much these EMFs, even low level, dramatically impact our functioning.
Yeah, we only did this for 2 to 3 minutes, so it's not like it's a chronic exposure. So this is an acute exposure from a low level. I think of people, I'm fortunate because I live way out in the country in the middle of 800 acres. I'm not exposed to any EMF. The people who live in major cities underneath cell towers, they're constantly bombarded with not low-level EMF, but high-level EMF. And the other thing I noticed too is that some people were much more sensitive to that. So when I would put the fan close to them, they could almost feel the energy being sucked out of them. And some people like me, I didn't notice any tangible or noticeable difference when I subjected myself to the EMF challenge. I have probably a high degree of acceptance to that because I'm healthy, and people whose immune systems are drained or they're drained to begin with, they're going to be more sensitive to that low-level challenge than other people.
Yeah, and I think that's the case for any modality. If you are very, very healthy, eating more salads or taking a supplement or whatever it is that you're doing, if you're already up here, going up here, you're just a little bit better, 1% increase, you're not going to notice that as much as someone who's starting from down here that has just high blood pressure or cancer, what have you. And we found that also that people that are not well definitely feel the shift when they are wearing the pendant. I felt that way. I think I wasn't faring very well when I first discovered the pendant and met the founder who developed it. I definitely felt a profound shift. But what we found that not everyone feels something, but the majority of people do.
No, I think look, everybody's different. And the most important experiment is the N=1 experiment. Everybody's different, right? And everybody's going to see a response no matter what you do, or different response. Some people are going to feel that, like when I take my nitric oxide products, I don't feel any different. But I know I can measure it, I can quantify it, I know that it's beneficial. But people with emphysemas, chronic smokers, people with blood pressure issues, they take it and they go, oh my God, what is this? I feel it. It's the same with anything. I think it's the same with the exposure to the low-level EMF. And then when you reharmonize them, the sicker patients are probably going to see a more profound effect than those of us who try to do our best to keep our body operating at its highest level.
And after, going through the Harmoni Pendant study and seeing the results, is this something that you would recommend to people?
No, I certainly would, because I want something that's quantifiable, that's objective, that I can feel good about explaining a mechanism of action. Because as a scientist, it's my job and my responsibility to understand the mechanism of the disease to the extent that we can correct it. And so I will never do anything or recommend anything that I don't understand or that's quantifiable and objective. So prior to being able to measure this through the heart rate variability or these other diagnostic modalities, it's hard for me to recommend something based on trust. Well, I heard this, my reputation's at stake and their health is at stake. So now I think that we have evidence that you can show what baseline levels are. We can challenge them and actually show them that it's decreasing their total body voltage and affecting their frequencies. And then you can actually fix that acutely with the pendant and actually show them, demonstrate to them, and quantify them the effects. Then yeah, I would certainly, because sometimes it's these small things that may seem really trivial that have the greatest effect on their health.
Yeah, and what we found is that, different medical doctors and other clinicians were involved in this study, and I recommended this to many, many, many people. And what they found is that when people wear a Harmoni Pendant and they get the benefits of it, it ends up, kind of reducing their stress, making their body regulate a bit better, and they're better able to deal with stressors that come at them. And that also helps to potentiate other modalities and other therapies that they're using.
Well, I think the most important thing is the regulation of the autonomic nervous system. There's dysautonomia in the majority of the population because everybody's stressed, everybody's running at maximal speed, and they're just on sympathetic overdrive. And so you've got to balance the autonomic nervous system and create balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic. And we see that with the pendant, that you see this imbalance, parasympathetic dominant, and then you harmonize them and you get a balance in the autonomic nervous system. And that affects every major organ system, controls stress levels, cortisol levels, blood pressure, salt retention, major impact on the human body.
Well, Dr. Bryan, thank you so much for giving us your insight into how the Harmony Pendant works and the results you saw in the clinical trials that you did with the Harmony Pendant. So thanks for taking the time.
Well, thanks for including me. I'm always interested in learning new things and trying to figure out more about how the body works.